Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a fantastic and awesome, beautiful morning. Why? Because our Creator breathed life into you this morning, breathed life into me this morning, woke you up this morning, woke me up this morning for day 81 of the Free to Hope Presents 12 steps applied to COVID-19. So, this is a great day and a happy new day. Free stands for from recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. And the 12 steps that were created by the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous over 80 plus years ago is still helping alcoholics stay sober so that they can help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud, grateful, and humble member for 31 years. I can actually say on February the 23rd, we celebrated 31 years, one day at a time, practicing these 12 steps that are spiritual in nature in all our affairs and including COVID-19. So for that, I am grateful. We are grateful because I can breathe. You can breathe. I can smell. I can taste. I can swallow. Yes. And I can touch, see, feel, and I can hear. But the goal of these 12, 12 steps being applied to COVID-19 and surviving it with 7 other family members, those 12 steps are awesome. And we are sharing this recovery conversation with each other so that we both can be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. But first, we must give homage to the creator of us all, who knows the beginning, the middle, and the end of COVID-19. And he knows how the wisdom of the 12-step program can benefit the human race. So let's give homage by giving 30 seconds, a moment of silence to our Creator, as well as to the entire human race who is in one shape, form, or fashion being affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. Join me as we give homage to our Creator and our fellow human beings as we together combat and stop the perpetuation of its effects, outcomes, impact, and fatalities that are rising around the world and simultaneously. Join me. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of my higher power, who I choose to call God, and on behalf of the entire human race, let me say thank you to you because you are engaged in this recovery conversation with me. Maybe your heart, your soul, your spirit can be touched by the information, experience, strength, hope, and wisdom that is acknowledged, exposed, shared with you for you to help save one life, one family, one culture, one community, one city, one state, one country. And if we all learn, apply, and practice these 12 spiritual principles, and all our affairs regarding specifically to COVID-19, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of its devastating effects and fatalities in order to touch one more life by accepting, acknowledging, and practicing the simple suggestions offered by the CDC: washing your hands, wearing a mask, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. So, before I continue, let me share with you my sponsors. And my sponsors are those who have contacted me and are supporting me in our quest to get the information out in order to have individuals implement these simple suggestions by applying the 12 steps so that we can apply the CDC simple suggestions. Crafty Crab, I was there last night for my anniversary. Yes, we practiced the CDC's guidelines. We social distance. We had sanitizer. We definitely wore our mask except for eating and drinking. And we were able to even engage in a little distance dancing. So Crafty Crab is my latest sponsor, followed by Free to Hope, followed by the Women Do Hall Transportation Services, Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgans of Delaware, and Lady T at Morgans of Delaware, African Attire, Jewelry by Catherine Butler, and Divine Light. As you can see, I'm wearing Divine Light, and it goes in cooperation with Dr. Carl Jung and Dr. Bob and Bill W. when they said that people with the disease of alcoholism need a spiritual experience that will create a spiritual awakening through divine providence and divine intervention to show them the divine light. So that's why I wear my sponsors' masks, just to help promote them, but particularly the Divine Light one, because it is a treatment center that provides supportive housing to those suffering with the disease of addiction. And if you want to be a sponsor, please contact me with the information on the screen via email, telephone number, or just cash at me and say, here, we support the cause, $ Free to Hope. I also want to acknowledge my resources that I've been using since April the 1st as a result of an article by Dr. Scott T. Allison in Psychology Today, where he states, we as a society can benefit from the wisdom of 12-step programs during the month of April of 2020, when this pandemic challenged us to stay in lockdown, quarantine, isolate, so that we can stop the perpetuation of it. But how good of a job did we do? Not so good, because it is over 500,000 individuals who have died in the United States alone from COVID-19. Millions have contracted it, but in the United States alone, over 500,000 have died. So we need to study, implement the suggestions offered in that article by Dr. Scott T. Allison, which I will show you shortly. Also, Jason Waller, he has a podcast and a website that is awesome. And he has a tab that says Breaking Down the 12 Steps. That's jasonwaller.com. As a result of April the 1st, When I hit that go live button, after reading Dr. Scott T. Allison, going online and extracting Jason Waller's simple breakdown of the steps, I said, these are the resources that I'm going to use. And I thank God for that, because it will provide information that will help you do your own homework, and also provide the exercises and questions that you can do. All right. So let's go to our next slide, and let's talk about the article that Dr. Scott T. Allison focused on. And it says, right, how wisdom of the 12-step programs can help us through April of 2020. 1, letting go of control. 2, patience. 3, keeping the focus on oneself. 4, trust, living in the present. Social connections, right? And 7, service to others. So why wouldn't we learn what these 7 points are that are designed to help save our lives using the Al-Anon anonymous approach, which is the same 12-step program like Gamblers Anonymous, Workaholics Anonymous. All of them use the same 12 spiritual principles. So we want to invite you to go to Dr. Scott T. Allison article in Psychology Today and read up on them for your own information. All right. So what are the 12 steps? Many of you know I believe in repetition. And if you ever go to a 12-step meeting, there is a format that each group uses, and we read how it works. We read the traditions. We read the daily reflection reading, because we have to be encouraged. We have to be reminded, and we have to be there for the newcomer. So when we change the area of focus from alcohol to COVID-19, these are the steps and how they would read. We admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, which we will be completing today, more likely than not. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so will injure them or others, even you. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out regarding COVID-19. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others regarding COVID-19 and practice these principles in all our affairs. As I stated, repetition is so crucial in all 12-step programs that all use the same spiritual principles. Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Workaholics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Lust Anonymous, Al-Anon. They all use the same steps that are spiritual in nature. So whatever the adversity is, whatever the challenge is, when we apply these 12 spiritual steps, we are inviting the opportunity to challenge our existing and old attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, our choices, our decisions, whether good or bad, to begin to look at who we are now and what we would like to become as a result of that spiritual transformation brought about by this spiritual information. And the goal is to increase our spiritual maturity to have that psychic change. That psychic change that says it makes sense to wash my hands. It makes sense to wear my mask. It makes sense to practice social distance. It makes sense to contact tracing. It makes sense to get tested. It makes sense to get vaccinated. Why? Because it can save your lives and the lives of others and the lives of your loved ones. Is that enough? Is that enough to obtain that psychic change? To put down the image, to put down the pride, the ego, the stubbornness, the defiance, the rebelliousness, the self-centeredness, in order to save your life, the lives of your loved ones, and the lives of others? Do you think that psychic change is needed? Well, we have the solution to bring about that psychic change, and they are in the 12 steps. When we apply the 12 steps in all our affairs, but we particularly apply it to COVID-19, we will see that I don't need to be on image time. I don't need to be wearing all those other masks. I don't need to be saving my face. I need to be saving my behind and the behinds of others by practicing these simple suggestions. And guess what? The 12 spiritual principles are too just suggestions. So choose. Do you want to be a part of the problem or a part of the solution? Do you want to be the cause of someone's death, even your own? Or do you want to be responsible saving one's life, even your own? It's your choice. What would you do, as a gentleman said, if someone was standing in front of you with a shotgun? You and your family standing there at their mercy. What would you do as the leader, as the protector of that family to protect them? What would you do? You would do anything and everything to protect them and even yourself. Well, the gentleman said, then, if that's the way you feel, replace that shotgun with COVID-19. And when you replace it, you will see that it could still have the devastating effect of a shotgun. And what would you do to protect yourself and your loved ones? And they are as simple as wearing a mask, washing your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. All right. So you have seen that as a result of me contracting COVID-19 back in November of 2020, it was my creator that helped me to realize and recognize, Edwina, what's wrong with you? You have this information and it seems like you smelling yourself. It seems like you done got off track. It seems like you want to pick and choose when to practice these 12 spiritual principles. All right, Edwina, if that be the case, look at your decisions you're making. Look at your choices that you're making, right? And I had to admit to myself and accept the truth that I took COVID-19 for granted, that I thought it was out there, those people, those family, but not me and my family. I had that feeling of being invincible. I was in denial. I was rebellious. I was stubborn. I was self-centered. I was egotistical. I was more on pride and ego and how I look, image. And therefore, I can honestly say with beyond a shadow of a doubt, I contributed to contracting COVID-19 as well as infecting members of my family. Yet I had the information of the 12 steps that I did not apply. So my creator said, no problem, Edwina. I'm going to bring you and your family members out of it for the sole purpose of informing, educating, hopefully inspiring, and planting a seed in just one more person who may think like you, who is thinking like you. One more family who may be subjected to what your family went through and want to avoid it. Can you do that for me, Edwina? And God knows me. I will yield even as I stumble forward. So, being in recovery for the past 31 years, 31 years, right? I have learned and applied these 12 spiritual principles in all my affairs. So on April the 1st, during this COVID-19 pandemic situation that came upon us, right? I set before you transparent, honest, truthful, open, and definitely willing to share with you my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom of how these 12 spiritual principles help me in this journey called life. I, at the age of 34, underneath a parked car in the streets of Philadelphia, right, getting high and doing all kinds of sexual favors with my stepson, because of the disease of alcoholism, the disease of addiction. And I cried out to this God that I didn't know to take me out this life or show me a better way. I didn't know him, but I heard about him. But that was my most humiliating experience of being underneath a parked car. But through that humiliating experience brought about humility for me, and I asked for help. Well, guess what? When I and members of my family contracted COVID-19, through that humiliating experience of being defiant, selfish, self-centered, and all that, and seeing the effects of the symptoms, particularly with my 2-year-old and myself, I cried out to this God that I know, been knowing, have a personal relationship with him. But I needed to call out to him, help me, help my family. And so it was through contracting COVID-19, my God allowing me and my family members to survive for the purpose of sharing with somebody else. Just in case you are just like me. Just in case you are stubborn. Just in case you are resistant to change. Just in case you don't want to follow the CDC suggestions, right? Well, let me give you some spiritual information that can bring about that psychic change. Let me present to you my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, my lack of wisdom, my bad choices, my bad decisions. Yes. So that maybe, just maybe, you are listening. Okay, so we presented the information with Dr. Scott T. Allison. I also shared with you how the 12 steps helped me to deal with my issues, my character defects regarding COVID-19 that prompted that psychic change. And I took it all the way and got vaccinated. You want to see? You from Missouri? Let me show you, okay? So here I am getting the vaccine shot. See? If you're from Missouri, I got the first shot. I'm waiting to get the second shot because I now take this COVID-19 seriously. And I am encouraging you to do the same thing. And so as a result of going all the way with this COVID-19, I too needed to reapply these 12 spiritual principles while I'm yet sharing them with you. So, and that's where Jason Waller's breakdown of the steps really helped us. So we know that with all the particular steps that we have been going through, we know that we've gone through 1 through 5, and we want to do an overview before we continue and hopefully conclude recovery principle number 6. but using the breakdown and the information and the resources that Jason Waller used in his breakdown of the 12 steps, coupled with his own experience, strength, and hope. This is what we have covered so far in applying these 12 steps to COVID-19. So, one, we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19 and that our lives had become unmanageable. This is the only step that needs to be taken 100%. Total acceptance without any reservations. Go back to my podcast from December the 3rd. Go back to April the 1st, and you will see and review a lot of information that helps to go into detail about the spiritual principles as we apply them to COVID-19. 2, came to believe that a powers greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, soundness of mind. This is where we want to achieve that psychic change, because we see that the CDCs and tangible evidence and experiences of others, even yourself, even mine, can help you come to believe that you need to take this COVID-19 seriously, right? And it also will prompt you to do the next right thing, not just the next thing, but the next right thing, all right? And so we're going to go to number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. So if this information, this higher power or powers greater than us have been working, why wouldn't I want to make that decision on a regular basis? Okay, so 4, this is where we go back in our history to find out where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were first formulated, of being defiant, of being rebellious, of being prideful, of being stubborn, okay? And once we identify them and accept them, we need help in the 5th step with someone who's going to assist us in getting to the exact nature of those character defects. So what we saw on top of the water with that iceberg was only the surface. When we submerge underneath that water, we're going to see an iceberg that's wide and deep. And so that's what getting to the exact nature will do for us regarding our character defects. All right. And all of this is geared towards the acknowledgement and acceptance of how we are powerless over COVID-19 and how it continues to make our lives unmanageable. But there is a solution, and they are in the steps. So let's go on with Jason Waller's breakdown in terms of recovery principle number 6. But let me show you how I shared with you what my character defects were and how I got to the exact nature and therefore became entirely ready to have them removed. So when you do the exercises that are in step 4, and when you speak with someone else to help you get to the exact nature, you will have this experience in learning that my resentment was masked by anger, that was masked by uncertainty, confusion, frustration, disbelief, and fear against COVID-19. That I had a resentment against myself, my behavior, my attitude, my choices that I made regarding COVID-19. And resentment was camouflaged by a feeling of stupidity, defiance, rebellion, selfishness, self-centeredness, right? Regrets, remorse, and fear. We learn in the 12-step program that we can no longer run from fear, like forget everything and run. Instead, we must face everything and recover. That's the positive and spiritual angle for the acronym for fear. Face everything and recover. All right. So we presented to you as a result of my example with the 4th and 5th step. So by the time I did my 6th step, I was and became entirely ready for God to remove all those defects of character, right? Because for me, Charles de Bois says it so eloquently. Doing these 6 steps, here's the question, because this is the point. To be able at any moment to sacrifice what we are for what we could become. Do you know that it only takes one time not to wear a mask, not to wash your hands, not to social distance, not to do contact tracing, not to get tested, not to get vaccine? It only takes one moment for you to do any of them things for you to contract COVID-19. And we know that the vaccination only decreases the severity of the symptoms. So that means I still got to practice these simple suggestions that are designed to save my life. But the vaccine, from me doing my research, dispelling rumors, dispelling all kinds of myths, looking at the facts of what happened, what we're talking about now. And so if in fact that I am entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, I don't want to give COVID-19 one moment, 1 second of the possibility of infecting me and therefore infecting my grandchildren, my family, and even you. So no, we cannot give COVID-19 1 second, because that 1 second, that 1 moment can cost the life of others, including yours. Okay, so now that we understand what Charles de Bois was saying, let's go to the some of the obvious deadly sins and character defects that all of us possess to one degree or another. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Don't you want to know what happened, where it happened, how you formulated those choices and behaviors and decisions? Don't you want to know where they happen? Don't you want to get to the exact nature of your anger, your resentment, your dishonesty, being defiant, being rebellious? Don't you want to know you got character defects like me that we love and we like, but they are defected? So why would we want anything about our character defected when we were given some God-given natural instincts? And as our role in this journey called life continued and still continues, those natural God-given instincts began to far exceed their intended purpose, which made it possible for our character to become defective. Whether we like them, enjoy them, our survival tools or not, they are defective, and we should become entirely ready to have God, our Creator, remove any and all things that stands in the way from Him using us and producing that psychic change for us to make those decisions. And when we face everything in recovery, as a result of getting to the exact nature, we can be set free from recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. All right, so let's continue so we can get to our other slides and other information. All right, so here next we have the questions that were posed by Jason Waller that are on the screen now, and we have talked about some of them. We went into detail, so we need you to go back to our podcast from previous days and get caught up and to marinate and to examine and to analyze these answers, the discussions, so that when you are presented with these questions, you have a better idea of why these steps should be conducted, performed, analyzed, evaluated, practiced, applied in your life, right? So the first question was, what are your fears about doing a 6th step? What does it mean that a higher power can remove them? What is your responsibility? Do you believe you can change? And we, talked about that. I gave you my experience, my strength, and my hope regarding those questions. And yesterday, we celebrated my anniversary, so we didn't really get to the continuation of the questions. But now that we're on the last 2, let's go for it. All right. So we know that with these character defects, the next and fifth question that he asked, and there are more, I think it's up to 8. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But when we start dissecting and analyzing these spiritual principles, we want to go as deep and as wide as possible. We want to go to the essence of our core, like that onion with all those layers of defects, huh? Don't you want to get to the core of who you really are, who you were intended to be, what you could possibly become? If you don't apply these CDC suggestions, you ain't going to have a chance. How about that? So let's go and see what this next question says. All right, so let's put it on the screen. It says, are some of your character defects enjoyable because they give you pleasure? That's a very tough question, isn't it? But do you understand what's enjoyable and what gives me pleasure? Do you see that word? Do you see that word? What's that word? Some things we're saying are enjoyable and they give us pleasure. And so what is the focused word in this question of what gives us pleasure, what we enjoy? Defects. Defects. You mean to tell me, right, that these character defects bring me joy, bring me pleasure, and they do. Guess what? And guess why? Because they feed the flesh. Yes, they do. They feed the flesh. We are human beings, right? And like Donald Lawrence says, we are not natural beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings encased in walking this natural experience. So those character defects that gives us pleasure, that we enjoy, we need to be entirely ready to have them removed too. Why? Because their focus is to feed the flesh and not our spiritual being part of us. That makes sense? So the God that gave you natural instincts, that gave you a purpose, that has a destiny for you, do you think, would you want somebody defected to show them the way? Well, guess what? Nor do our Creator wants that. So regardless of we enjoy them, we like them, they're our survival kit, they are defected. They are defecting our character. They are defecting our judgment. Their sole purpose is to feed the flesh. And that's why these 12 spiritual principles are spiritual in nature. To learn how to deal with our physical conditions, but using a spiritual angle so that we can ask ourselves the question, particularly regarding COVID-19. Is me not wearing the mask, me not washing my hands, me not social distancing, me not contact tracing, me not getting tested, me not getting vaccinated? Is it feeding the flesh or is it feeding the spirit? COVID-19 is a spiritual, COVID-19 is a physical condition that can affect our spirituality, not religion, right? And so if we focus more on the spirituality and focus it on this physical condition, then our reaction, our decisions, our choices, our attitudes, our ideas, and ultimately our behavior will demonstrate that we are dealing with it from a spiritual angle and not on a physical one. That makes sense? All right? So even if they are enjoyable and they feel good and they give us pleasure, they are defected. And so do you want to sacrifice a moment of pleasure, a moment of enjoyment that can take your life, the lives of your loved ones? That's why I thank God for sparing me so that I can share with you my bad decisions, my bad choices, yet with the information. That's how deep these character defects are. We have to be willing to be changed, to how it works. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So even with a person who had now 31 years of practicing these principles, I still fell short of applying them and contributed to contracting COVID-19. So you better believe I am entirely ready. I want to make that decision all day long to protect myself, to protect my loved ones, and ultimately to protect you. And if we do this individually, as a family, as a community, as a city, as a state, as a country, simultaneously around the world, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of the devastating impact, effects, outcome, and fatalities of COVID-19. All right? So just the fact that that word defect is enough for me. All right, let's go on to the next one. It says, are there any defects that you think cannot be removed? Are you willing to have all of them removed? If not, why? So let's start with the first part of that question. Are there any defects that you think? Are there any defects that you think cannot be removed? Think before you answer the question. Do you think there are any character defects that cannot be removed? Do you think that this power greater than us, our Creator, who gave us the Spirit, who planted the Spirit in this temple, this vessel, are you saying that He is limited? Are you saying that He can't undo what you do, what you did, or what you thinking? Are you saying that it's impossible? Look at the question again. Are there any defects you think cannot be removed? When we in Alcoholics Anonymous had to address this issue, we thought, some of us believed, that we would die an active drunk. We would die as an active addict. We thought that it could not be done. We thought, we believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is the way it's going to be. There's no hope. There's no possible way. There's no way. So I just might as well keep getting high. I just might as well just keep what? Huh? No. When we say things like that, we are feeding the flesh. And so just to let you know, just like we were told, if in the second step, a power greater than us could restore us to soundness of mind, if we said in the third step that we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, that He knows in the fourth step all of our character defects, some that we don't even know. And when we met with the individual in step 5, getting to the exact nature, it says admit it to God, who already knows. to ourselves, that what we find in our character that has caused us problems, that has caused us issues, that has caused us harm to ourselves and others, that they were defective. Now we know. We can't say we don't know now. And now we found out with this person and getting to the exact nature. And we know that the exact nature of all our character defects is based in fear. Fear of not having, fear of not belonging, fear of not measuring up, fear of not succeeding, fear of failure, fear. But in recovery, we said, okay, fear, but let's face everything in recovery. Because it's not you, Edwina. It's not you. It's the God within us who's going to do the changing, who's going to do the removing, who's going to prepare us for things yet to come. It's his job. It's not your job. It's not my job. We just have to be willing and we have to be ready for him to do what he's been waiting to do all your life, all my life. And if it takes going through humiliation to bring about that humility, for you to cry out to say, help me, like I did 31 years ago underneath that park car, then help me. I can't do it. I can't change. But I want to. I know I need to, but I want to. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to say them things. No, I do not. No. Those are all those masks. I don't want to be all defected up. Not when I recognize that I can't change me. But I want to, but I don't have the power to. So that means any and every defect that I could possibly have, known and unknown, they can be removed by the Creator himself. Yes, they can. So when we get down, dirty, and deep in these discussions and these conversations, it will be revealed to your spirit. And for you to answer this question in maybe the first way from a physical perspective, do the pros and cons and where that's going to get you, right? And then that will lead you into taking a different approach, becoming more open-minded, being honest about the outcome of that word defect, and be willing to look at these things from a spiritual angle. And so the answer to that question is, are there any defects that you think cannot be removed? Once we answer that question, here's the next one. Are you willing to have all of them removed? Now that you no longer think that there are none that can be removed, now comes the acid test. Are you entirely ready to have all of them removed? A-L-L, all. I ain't talking about the soap powder. I'm talking about all of them. Are you now willing and ready to have them all removed? And so, if you had that onion, like I like to be, give you something tangible, and we presented ourselves like an onion to this thing called recovery, we know at the core of that onion, where those natural instincts were born, where that seed of that onion was placed, by whom? By whom? Our Creator. You may have planted the seed, but who created the seed? And so just like that onion, right? At the core of that onion, right? It started out with natural God-given instincts to grow into its purpose, to fulfill its destiny. So why should we be any different than that onion? So what's at the core of our spiritual being? So that spirit was placed into this temple. Yes, huh? And so when I think about all those character defects, looking at that onion again, layers and layers and layers and layers. Wow. Ooh, that is one experience you can't deny. And the bigger the onion, the more and bigger the layers. Ooh, Lord have mercy. But there is hope. There is hope. All we have to learn to do is apply these 12 spiritual principles so that we can learn where the hope lies. Who provides the hope? Who provides the solution? Who has the answers? So the question again, are you entirely ready to have them all removed? All removed. We're talking about character defects. Why wouldn't you want them all removed? No, we're not going to be perfect, white as snow, but if the opportunity presented itself, would you want all your character defects removed? Yes. And if any character defects stand in the way from me making a bad choice, a bad decision about wearing a mask, washing my hands, social distancing, right? Contact tracing, getting tested, getting vaccinated. Why in the hell would I want anything that stops me from saving my own life and saving the lives of my loved ones and possibly even yours? As those individuals who've lost loved ones, who are suffering right now. What their attitude, ideas, and behaviors, choices, and decisions were before they contracted COVID-19. And you will hear a series of if I coulda, woulda, shouldas. Huh? They say in our Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, some of us must die in order for some of us to live. And you may say that's so harsh, but guess what? The truth hurts, but the truth will set you free. And why? Is because some people are just constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. And they are not fault. They seem to have been born that way, right? But when we talk about how it has affected our lives from the time in the beginning up until now, because nobody ever really posed these questions to us, did they? Nobody asked you what your character defects were, right? Nobody asked you, were you willing to turn your will and your life over? No one asked you ever to do an inventory of your liabilities and assets, huh? Let alone sit down and talk about your dark secrets and whatever to somebody else. Nobody ever asked you to do that, huh? Well, I'm asking you now. Why? Because it is my responsibility, my duty, my honor, my obligation to share with you why these CDC suggestions are designed to save your life and why these 12 spiritual principles will help you to see that so that we can develop that psychic change in order to address our old and existing attitudes, ideas, and behaviors and start making decisions, based on a spiritual angle dealing with these physical conditions. All right, so, and then it says here, are you willing to have all of them removed? And then And then you're going to have some people say no. And so our question to them is, if you're not willing to have them all removed, why not? Help us to understand why you would want to keep any part of your character that's defected. Why would you want to keep anything that can prevent the Creator from using you to your fullest capacity? Why would you want to keep obtaining pleasure for something that is designed to only feed the flesh and take you nowhere? So help us to understand why you wouldn't want all those character defects removed. They say in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a prayer that's called St. Francis, and one of those sayings says, we try to understand than to be understood. So I'm trying to understand. Just like those that I talked to, they tried to understand. Edwina, you had the information. Edwina, help us to understand why you were reluctant. Edwina, what were you thinking? What were you going through? Help us to understand, Edwina. We're not here to judge you or criticize you. We're trying to understand your method of thinking, your attitudes, your ideas, your behaviors. Help us to understand. So when we ask that question, if you don't want all your character defects removed, why not? And see, that's what I mean with Jason Waller and Dr. Allison's approach. To get us to decipher this information so that by the time we are ready to do any of these steps, we would have went through the process of dispelling any rumors, any myths, any hesitations, right? Removing any reservations and be willing to say, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. And that's why these questions and doing them and analyzing them and talking about them with somebody else to get to the exact nature so you can present yourself, And when you present yourself, that God, our Creator, says, okay, now let me do my job. Let me prepare you for what I destined you to be. Let me prepare you for what I have for you, because I cannot take you with me. I cannot take you to your destiny with defects. No, I cannot. And no, I will not. You let me know when you're ready. Woo. All right, so you got the gist, right? So let's see what the next two questions are. We might not have time to do them today, but if it's God's will that he wakes us up tomorrow, we will. So let's at least review them, right? So questions number 7 and 8 says, how does surrender help with step 6? We're going to go over that tomorrow because we won't have time today. And the 8th question, what actions can you take to show that you are entirely ready? And so if it is God's will that he breathe life into us tomorrow for day 82, breathe life and wake us up tomorrow for day 82, we will be reunited to answer the last two questions posed by Jason Waller's breakdown of the steps and continue with the conclusion of recovery principle number 6. Okay, so in the meantime, I want to ask you again, are you in the prevention, intervention, or restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you being proactive, reactive, inactive, or responsible when it comes to COVID-19? Only you can answer those questions. So let me once again share with you how getting the vaccine is not a bad thing. All right, so let's start from the beginning. I'm waiting to get my booster shot, okay? In a couple more weeks. So I did get the vaccine. If you from Missouri, I'm telling you that I did, all right? I also want to thank my sponsors again for supporting me in my cause. And if you want to be a sponsor, please contact me. And you can be added to my screen. I can wear your mask, and you can just contact me and ask, how can I become a sponsor? So these are the sponsors: Crafty Crab Seafood, Free to Hope, Women Do Hall Transportation Services, Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgans of Delaware, Lady T at Morgans of Delaware, Jewelry by Catherine Butler, and Divine Light Inc. My resources are Dr. Scott T. Allison in Psychology Today, March 31st, 2020 edition, and Jason Waller, Breaking Down the 12 Steps, jasonwaller.com. All right. And so what we want to do now is to close out and have you review information that's going to help you and encourage you to come back and be with me as we continue to save one life, one family, one culture, one city, one state, one country. And if we do it simultaneously around the world, we are all in this together. We can, we will, and we must stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. But it starts with me and it starts with you. Why? Just wearing the mask, right? Wearing the mask, washing your hands, social distancing, right? Contact tracing, getting tested and getting vaccinated. And if the 12 steps can help you implement these CDC suggestions, get to stepping. See you tomorrow, only if it's God's will. Okay. All right, I'm going to put up my information about my book that's available. And if it's God's will, we will